open the work session. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just a note on the agenda, we've got our work session, and then we have a special meeting. We were still waiting for a final version of, for the resolution for Meller. I can never get that name right. We got it late yesterday, so we will not be doing that today. We'll have to review that, give the town board a chance to review it, and then put it on for a special meeting next week. So that's the only change in the agenda for today. Do we have any public comments? Anything that's not on the agenda or subject to public hearing? Bert?
Hi, Bert Wade, I know Ferry Road. So I know a couple of us attended the WMAC last night. So I just wanted to direct your attention to a possible letter that might be circulating and handed to the town board from Tom Fields, member of the WMAC. So he opened by discussing that there is a comment period. And what he was talking about that comment period is that the Aquaculture Lease Board proposes sites to potential farmers or existing farmers who are either going to get a new site or transfer a site or expand and get a second site. So that comment period, there was a notice in the newspaper, and then that comment period ends in sometime in May. So that is what specifically the public is asked to respond to if they want to about those specific spots. He did mention other items about and other grievances he has about the program. And personally, I think that there really should be more commonality between oyster farmers and wild fishermen. I don't think it should be so antagonistic, which I felt that his presentation was. But I just want to say that if you do have any questions about the aquaculture lease program by Suffolk County, and that the town has a town-appointed representative to that committee, and that's Joe Fenora, and he can answer any question you have about the interaction of towns, our responsibility as farmers, to the county and to our leases or to grant holders, and what their responsibilities are. So that's it. So I haven't seen any edited version of Tom's correspondence, but I'd like to before the town considered signing it. All right. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. Anyone else? Anyone on Zoom? Okay, we will move on to our next item on the agenda, which is the Pro Housing Communities Resolution. And we have Karis Rasmussen from Home and Community Renewal. And I'm always not sure how to say your name, Talia or Talia? You're muted.
That was perfect. Yes, Talia.
Okay.
Thank you.
I've heard it pronounced two different ways at our Suffolk County Supervisors meetings when you attend. So I apologize for that. But I have both of them here today to just go over the Pro Housing Community Resolution from their perspective. We can have an opportunity to ask any questions and then also talk about grant programs that Karis can speak to that are available with this designation. So Karis, I turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. I'm Deputy Chief of Staff here at HCR working on the Pro Housing Community Program. I'm just going to give a super fast overview of the program and its requirements. You will all stop me if you have questions, and then, of course, happy to take all your questions at the end. But the Pro Housing Community Program was established by Governor Hochul in 2023. In the decade before the pandemic, New York State added 1.2 million new jobs, but only about 403,000 new homes, leading to obviously a big imbalance in our housing cycle. So the Pro Housing Community Program is designed to reward communities that are growing their housing stock or committed to growing their housing stock. In order to apply, we only have, we ask for three sort of sets of data. We ask for a municipality zoning map in shapefiles or GIS if you have that format, if not PDF. Your zoning code data entered into a template that we have, and then permitting data over the last 5 years. So just asking for those permits that increased or decreased the total number of housing units in the municipality. And also, I'm really excited to announce we have revamped our templates to make them more intuitive. I think personally they're much easier. So just working towards making the application process even easier. I think we are hopefully launching those. Those should go out today up on our website. So once we have those three items, we take a look at your permitting. We see if the municipality has met the growth target, which for downstate is 0.33% over the last year of housing permitted growth in housing permits, or 1% over the last 3 years. And that's to sort of recognize communities that might have had a big bump in 1 year, but maybe not in the immediate year preceding. And if you haven't met the growth targets, we just ask the municipality to adopt the model resolution as written. The model resolution is a statement of values. It just asks the municipality to certify that they recognize that there is a housing crisis, and then certain steps that we have seen that have worked to increase housing in different places. I think just a couple things to say on the resolution. We at HCR think of it as sort of a menu. Again, there are things that we've seen work in communities in different places, but we are not expecting every municipality to do every single item listed in the resolution. We are hoping, we're hoping that you'll commit to some of them to increase growth, but certain municipalities, they don't need to revamp their permitting process, or, maybe they have recently adopted new zoning codes. So again, it's just a menu. These are things that have worked. We aren't looking to have every municipality adopt every item in the resolution. Let me just look at my notes. Do you want me to stop here? Do you want me to move into grants?
Yeah, why don't we pause here for a minute and see if the board has any questions about the resolution or the application process.
What are we required to do as a board? What are we required to implement
From the resolution, or
as a result of the resolution?
you have to commit to certain things like affirmatively furthering fair housing, which is the law, and then the menu of options that we talk about. Again, it's looking at zoning code changes if the municipality needs them, ADUs, multifamily housing, affordable housing, streamlining permitting. Let me pull up the text so we can go through all 5 of the steps. But again, we're not asking for every single item from every municipality.
Excuse me, is this the model resolution that we already have or
Yes.
looking at, or is this modified?
This is the one that we've been looking at.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's not, there's no new modification?
No.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, that's all. All right, thank you, Gary.
Yeah, of course.
All right, if you want to go into the different funding sources that become available.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's certain discretionary funding sources that require per housing certification. Some of the bigger programs are sort of coming up. There's usually a first week in July deadline for the common funding application, the CFA, in which some of these programs you apply through these programs through the CFA. For that deadline, and I don't know if it's been released yet. Last time I looked, it hadn't. But again, it's typically the first week in July, and we require municipalities to have completed applications by the deadline. And then you have to be fully certified by the time that any funding is awarded. So there's usually about a 8 to 12 week time. You have to get us your materials, but then we can work on things with you to sort of finalize the application if you're awarded. This year HCR had $5 million in technical assistance funding for per housing communities. So that's funding for things like site analysis, permitting analysis, zoning analysis, housing needs assessments. We just released those awards and we are fully committed, but we are hoping to have additional funding next year for that. There is the Downtown Revitalization Initiative and New York Forward. Both of those require pro housing certification. New York Forward is designed for sort of municipalities with smaller downtowns. It's smaller projects focused more on building renovation and upper stories as opposed to larger mixed-use developments, which we usually fund more through the Downtown Revitalization Initiative. Both of those programs are administered by the Department of State. So if you have any questions, anything you have questions on too that I can't answer today, please email me and I can connect you to the right folks. HCR administers the Main Street Grant, which revitalizes New York State's downtowns. But there are certain restrictions on which communities can receive that funding. And again, we can talk about those in a little bit more detail. There is the Public Transportation Modernization Enhancement Program, capital programs with Market New York, capital projects with Market New York funding. And then there are two Long Island specific funds, the Long Island Investment Fund and the Long Island Forward Fund. All of these require per housing certification.
The Main Street program, I'm just looking at my notes. It looks like Long Island might not be eligible for that one.
It may not, yeah, and we administer that one, so I can check in with program area on that, but the area has to, again, there's sort of like a menu of things. It has to have experienced decay, neglect, disinvestment. There has to be the residents, 50% of the residents have to be persons of low income. So there are some sort of conditions on that one.
And how are those, is it for the municipality or is it for a portion of the municipality? Like, so if you had like a district that qualified, but maybe the whole community didn't, is that like, how does it work?
Yeah, my understanding with Main Street is that it's the municipality.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Something like the downtown revitalization, is that also municipality versus individuals that we might partner with?
Oh, as far as who is awarded or who is eligible?
Yes.
I believe, and I can connect you with DOS to make sure. I believe for both of those, I believe nonprofits and municipalities can apply.
Karis, if I could ask you, what is the structure of this grant funding? Is that come before the project, after the project? And is there a split between the town and the grant funded? 65, 35, what is the parameters?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I think that's really gonna vary by program. I can talk specifically to the technical assistance funding that we directly administer here at HCR and at the pro housing funding. That was 100%. We can cover up to 100% of the project's costs. It was grants of up to $250,000 for technical assistance. All of these other programs, I think it just varies by the funding source.
Okay.
They're not uniform.
Excuse me, the technical assistance, the housing needs assessment, we had just hired a firm to do a housing survey. So was that something, I know we've got funding from CDBG money, but is that something that we could maybe tap into to make up the difference? Because I think we do have a little bit of a shortfall there.
Yeah, if we were to receive additional funding, that sounds like it could be an eligible item. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is that something that we shouldn't start the project before we apply for the funding?
Oh, no, I wouldn't say that, especially for the technical assistance funding. Again, we just released awards about a little less than a month ago, and we're fully committed right now. So I wouldn't hold up any projects for that. We're hopeful to get more funding, but we don't have additional funding right now.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I think I want to go back to Albert's question a little bit, just because it is a question in the community. When you're talking about working on the, in the model resolution, the things that the state would be looking for us to do, I presume it's the 5 items in the resolve clause?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, so it's that we pursue some of these things, but we're not required to do each and every one.
Exactly. We, sorry, we've spoken to hundreds of municipalities since we started this program. We have about, where's my number? We have about more than 550 letters of intent from different municipalities. About 415 communities are certified, so literally hundreds of communities, and we fully recognize each community has its own like distinct housing needs and its own obstacles. Again, these are things that we have seen work in other places, but not every item is going to work in every municipality.
And we're not penalized if we look to try and do these, and we're actively looking to build 10 units right now. But if we can't check off that we did, 100% one of these, is there any penalty?
No. Mm-mm.
Any other questions from the board? Or Talia, I don't know if you wanted to weigh in on anything.
No, thank you. Karis is the expert on this.
Thank you.
Yeah. We're really trying to reward municipalities with additional funding, those that are committed to growth, those that are already growing. And also on our end, we're looking to get, consistent and accessible data on permitting and zoning across the state.
Do we have any questions from the public? Anyone on Zoom? All right, if we don't have any other questions and there's nothing else that you wish to share, we'll let you go. And thank you very much.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much for having us. We have office hours for the Pro Housing Community Program. The links are right on our website. If you have further questions, I'm happy to come back anytime. But also, if you ever want to jump on one of those office hours, we're on every Tuesday from 10 to 11 a.m. and every Wednesday from 2 to 3 p.m. So always feel free to hop on those at any time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any comments from the board about how we want to proceed with the model resolution?
I guess my question is like, do you feel like that answered some of your questions? Like specifically for you, Albert and Amber?
Yeah, I'd had a previous conversation with Karis. That's why I wanted to bring her in, because I did want to understand what we were, committed to. And in talking to other towns, the fact that there isn't anything. I don't see a downside.
Yeah. Did you feel like it answered your questions, Albert?
Yeah, I'm going by what Kara Woodward, was it last?
Yes.
Last week, she was saying that there's nothing that you have to commit to from the
Okay.
state. They're just looking to assist in housing
Yeah. It's like
development.
an aspirational statement is like how I,
Right.
Right,
okay.
yes.
When's the reality of submitting this? Is it something that's gonna happen next year? Is this pie? It just seems like there's a lot to pull together. And then, as Kara indicated last week, that they take time to do the review,
Yes.
to accept you into the program, the first step. So do we have any indication?
If I understood it from last time, we have put in a letter of
Yeah, that we did
interest.
2 years ago.
And I know that because we wanted to see if early on if we had could just qualify on just like base numbers. So we pulled together a lot, or let's be real, Meg has pulled together a lot of the data already. So we would just have to submit it. It seemed like it was plausible to get that in before we got any reports.
Yeah, I'll want to see the new forms that they have and
Yes.
see how the old information I have would translate to the new forms. And then I think I'd have to update it for the last year or maybe even 2 years. Because I did this when we submitted our letter of interest.
Mhm.
So it might be a year or 2 years old, my data. So I'll have to look at it and see what they're asking for. And I do already have the records from the building department for 24, 25, well, from 2019 to 2025. So depending on what they're asking, once I see the new forms, I'll know how long it might take me to put it all together.
I know they're asking for a zoning map, and really our zoning is very convoluted on Shelter Island. There's mixed areas. Is that something, how specific do we have to give them? Do we know?
I think we can give them our GIS map.
Yeah.
So there's a zoning layer on the GIS, and I think if we send them that, that meets their
Okay,
needs.
all right.
Yeah, and they have like the existing form, so we'll have to see what it looks like, has like what are your zoning types? So we actually don't have as many zoning districts as other municipalities. So we've got, A, AA, B, C, B1, the B1 and B2, and then the nearshore overlay. So we don't have as many, so they need descriptions of that, and then there's data associated with that, as well as the map itself.
I think I already did that part like 2
Yeah, I
years
think you
ago,
did.
so I
Yes.
just have to update it.
Yes. So, and they used to say a timeline of 3 months, so it definitely has gotten shorter, 8 to 12 weeks. But it also sounds like as long as we have passed the housing resolution and are in the process of getting certified, we could apply for funding. So that's where we go back to CDLI to see whether or not there is funding that we can tap into. And I think Gwen O'Shea has said that she may partner us up with, package us up with other communities in an application to be eligible for some of this funding. As I listen to it, it's like there's not a lot
That's what I'm hearing.
that we could be eligible for, but I don't mind giving CDLI, excuse me, the opportunity to
Sure.
investigate and be able to apply. So it seems like we could do this.
And it might be beneficial for other projects down the line in the
Yeah,
future.
facilities master plan,
Right,
looking at you.
Facility
Yes.
master plan kind of thing.
Yeah, we may be able to, something with downtown revitalization.
Yeah.
Things like that, so. What I'd like to do then is put this on for resolution on April 27th.
Okay.
I'd love that.
We get the ball rolling then on getting the data.
Yeah.
And Karis had given us the sign-in links, like we can request more, but because Jessica is our clerk for community housing, I designated her as one. But we can add, like if you want to be able to log in.
Okay.
And maybe just, after tomorrow, I have a lot of time on my hands if you help putting that together. Yeah, I would be happy to take it on. Yeah, and maybe we can just sit down, you can run me through it, but I'm sure you have other things you're working on, so.
I will,
Okay, great.
All right. Next, I don't know if we have anyone for the Jenny Landy Productions.
She sent me an email she wanted me to read because she wasn't available.
Oh, okay.
We also had a phone call and she said that she thinks her application is pretty self-explanatory. She doesn't need any other special town needs. It's all private property parking. So this was the email. She said, "Dear members of the town of Shelter Island, I'm writing in regard to the upcoming meeting to discuss and review the pending photo shoot application submitted by Jenny Landy Productions for a shoot at 8 Cheekwood Avenue in Shelter Island Heights on May 11th, 12th, and 13th. Due to a prior commitment, I am unfortunately unable to attend the meeting either in person or via Zoom. I wanted to thank you in advance for taking the time to review this application. It is a small shoot on private property, and I hope the submission is clear and self-explanatory. Please feel free to reach me by phone or text if there are any questions or additional information is needed. Thank you, Jenny Landy."
Just to review, this is an application for 8 Cheekwood Avenue. The number of people involved in the filming would be 15. It's from May 11th through the 13th, which is a Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. And there'd be 2 Sprinter vans and 4 cars. And all vehicles will be parked on 8 Cheekwood Avenue. And I thought we had gotten something in from the chief of police. Excuse me. Chief didn't, excuse me. Hopefully by the end of the meeting, I'll have a clear throat. Police department does not have any concerns, particularly given the time of year and the limited scope of the activity. They don't anticipate a need for dedicated police service. The on-duty officer can monitor the area as part of the routine patrol.
You're saying the vehicles will park on site?
Yes,
Okay, yeah.
yeah, 2 Sprinter vans and
Yeah.
4 cars. And then actually did highway. Just double check.
Ken wrote that.
Yeah, I don't think Ken responded.
Stella sent an email too.
Oh, okay, thank you. And I see Stella's on. I don't know if she wants to.
I didn't really have anything to say about it, because.
Oh, there you are in the
Sorry.
back. I didn't see you behind the podium.
Like the guy behind her. No, I didn't have an issue just because it's in the Heights and, there's no issue for parking on the street or anything. And I thought it was more of a Heights property situation than maybe a different thing.
Mhm. Okay, and I do see, I found Stella's email, and I see you've turned on your video, oh, but you're still muted, and your video went,
I'm here.
okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thanks. So we're fine with it, as long as those vehicles, stay on the, H-Equip property, which does have a pretty large parking area on premise, so I think it's very feasible. The reason that we're being, a little adamant about it is because in the immediate vicinity, there are 2 very large construction projects going on. And it's bedlam there without any additional traffic. So that was the only caveat that we had, but we're fine with it.
Okay, all right, good. Any other public comment on this? Since it's not until May 11th, we can put this on for the April 27th for resolution. Okay. Solar at the recycling center. We have the Green Options Committee here today. They have been working on solar at the recycling center. So we have Tim Purtell, Don D'Amato, Charity Roby here from Green Options.
I'm Tim Purtell, Chair of the Green Options Committee, and guest with Don D'Amato here and Charity Roby in the audience today. Putting this solar on the recycling center shed is not a new idea. It's something that's been talked about for a couple of years. But in the last, more recently, the Green Committee was involved in the federal program, the Energy Technology Innovative Partnership Project, and more specifically with the formerly called National Renewable Energy Lab, which is now the National Laboratory of the Rockies. And as part of our research with them, they also highlighted this location as a great site for solar. And they came up with data of their own. But recently, Don D'Amato and Rob Pappas, who was also a member of the Green Committee, did a deeper dive and looked more closely at what's involved in actually doing this. One of the reasons why we're here today, aside from presenting sort of more information, is there's some time constraints to this project, and it involves the federal government's 30% credit. It does involve the solar projects. The best information, it's very hard to get information actually from the Fed about the specifics of this credit. However, the best information that we have at the moment means that we need to begin construction by July 4th, 2026. And that doesn't mean we need to finish it. It just means that we must meet the physical work test, actual on-site or off-site construction activity, not just contracts or planning. For municipalities, this means signed contracts alone are not enough. You need real construction activity underway before that date. If you meet this particular deadline, if construction starts by July 4th, We generally get a multi-year window, typically up to 4 years to finish the project, still claim full credit. However, if we miss the July 4th deadline, the project must be fully in service by December 31st, 2027 to qualify at all. So this is obviously a tight deadline, but it may be a more realistic deadline than the July 4th deadline. Before we make any further recommendations at the moment, maybe let's hear from John, who can sort of walk through the data he and Rob have gathered, and then have a discussion after that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Yeah, good morning. We'd like to give you a presentation on some of the information that we've collected, and it's complicated, as you'll see. And a few things, so let's see, first we want to see if our slide. Not working? Second, let's try now. There we go. Okay, thank you. A little bit of a reminder, you may have seen this before. This is some of the key findings that Tim referred to from the ETIP program. And they start off by saying all of the scenarios that they looked at provide significant cost savings with payback periods of 10 years or less. And adding battery storage could provide significant gains, including backup during power outages. Specifically, we're looking at the recycling shed roof. And as you see circled right there, if the roof it's fully covered with solar panels, you, according to ETIP, you can generate annually 88.8 megawatt hours. This could be used to offset other meters that the town owns through what's called the remote net metering program. Well, that sounds pretty good, but first I'd like to give you just a little bit of information as to what a kilowatt hour is.
That's exciting.
What a kilowatt hour is, what a kilowatt is, because what I'm about to describe, as I said, gets complicated. A kilowatt is 1,000 watts, and let's see, put that in perspective. If you have a hair dryer, which is usually about 1,800 watts, that's 1.8 kilowatts. Now, if you use it for 1 hour, that's 1.8 kilowatt hours of energy. It's 1.8 kilowatts of power, 1.8 kilowatt hours of energy. Okay, now, what's a good analogy here? Power is much like the horsepower in a car, okay? It's what is, when you step on the gas, what you can achieve. Kilowatt hours is much like the gas you consume during a month, for example. Okay, looking at the next slide here. Whoops. This is a representative PSEG LI New York bill for the meter that is right next to the recycling shed. And what you see there is that we use rate 281, which is for commercial large general use. And if you look at this also, you see that there are a couple of charges. There's a kilowatt hour charge, that is the amount of electricity you've used during the month, but there's also a demand charge corresponding to basically what is the peak power that is used in any 15-minute period during any time of the month. So as I said, again, just repeating it, that demand charge is much like you turn everything on, all of the compactors, everything else that is driven right there. If you turn them all on at once, you will have a very high demand. Then over the month, you've used so many kilowatt hours. And in this particular case, you can see that the majority of the charges are actually the demand charge, specifically 33 kilowatts of energy corresponds to $773 in charge of the total of $1,562, so a very substantial portion. Okay, well, thanks to Meg and Robert Mazzaferro, we received 13 months of bills for 4 meters. And I looked at these. The copies weren't great, and I started entering the data, something like 17 values per bill times, well, actually 3 bills is all that were important. For 13 months, you added on all of something like 700 values that had to be key entered. And it was a bit daunting. So instead, I relied upon ChatGPT, artificial intelligence, to generate the values that you see in front of you. We're not going to go through this, you don't have to read them, but that just shows you the amount of information that has been generated in a spreadsheet form by ChatGPT. And of course, then we went on to use those values Yeah, next one. Whoops. Thank you. Just. Okay, thank you. Here's the meter that is actually near the recycling shed, and I've chosen just 12 months last year effectively to show you the breakout of the costs month by month and then the totals annually. And as you can see, it varies a fair amount. It's not obvious, there's a seasonal variation, but interestingly, I guess it's sort of hidden there, the share information, but the largest one is actually in December. We suspect that it was just compactors were being driven by the holiday rush or something like that. We really don't know. But in any event, you can see it's almost $10,000 annually of electric charges for that meter.
Do you think that was when the new rates went into effect?
No, I don't think so. From what I could see, the rates didn't change. The demand really increased.
Okay.
Okay. And now the same information graphically. And I've broken it out by color here, the energy cost, that is the kilowatt hours, then the demand cost, the kilowatts, the maximum kilowatts during any 15-minute period, then just the basic daily service taxes, et cetera. And you can see how it varies month by month. And again, that last one, that December to mid-January, the demand charge predominates. The point of all of this is, when you use solar panels, the only thing that you can get benefits from, the only thing that compensates on the bill is that yellow or orange charge. You cannot offset the demand charge because at least at some point during the month, when it's cloudy, when it's dark, there will be a peak demand. Here's another meter. This one is actually at the highway department for the maintenance shop and the offices. And you can see the values are somewhat higher. I've had all of these on the same vertical scale. The demand charge is somewhat less as a percentage, but still very significant. And then a third meter, much lower at the Menantic Road entrance, covering some of the lights in the buildings and near the entrance, we believe. Now, to calculate the amount of energy that can be generated by the solar panels, the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, or the new name, the National Laboratory of the Rockies, provides an online tool called PV Watts. And this is PV Watts projections for a 50 kilowatt DC array on the recycling roof. By the way, we chose that 50 kilowatt rather than the 88.8 that was shown in the earlier slide, because there's a very significant process known as CESIR, C-E-S-I-R, that requires an analysis by PSEG that can take months if you exceed that 50 kilowatts of, actually it's 50 kilowatts of AC that precipitates this CESIR analysis, and that would delay our installation considerably. So we've chosen to reduce it to the maximum 50 kilowatts on the recycling shed roof. And you can see that this generates roughly 61 megawatt hours per year, dividing by 1,000, megawatt hours per year. Okay, and it's broken out by month. And no surprise, you can see based on the solar radiation and the AC energy, it varies, of course, significantly, with December and January, of course, being quite low. Now, remote net metering I mentioned. That's the process through which the energy generated by one solar array at 1 meter can be used to offset the charges at other meters. And there are some terms here. The host account is where the meter actually is with the solar array. Satellites are the other meters that receive bill credits. But what is important down there in number 1, it is converted to a monetary credit based on the host rate. It is not based on the satellite rate, okay? And as we just showed, it's just a portion of the cost. That is the energy charge, not the demand charge that you are offsetting. The credits, as it says, first applied to the host bill and then to the satellites. By preset percentages, you must set those percentages annually. Oops. What's going on here? What happened? I don't know.
You didn't touch anything.
I don't know. I don't know.
He was right. There's the-
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Let's try again. I can go forward, if I try it?
Yep.
Good, thank you. Okay. Okay.
I know, so I didn't touch.
I would, she hasn't touched.
I know.
It's easier for you to
Why
get
don't we just let you handle it?
Sure.
Okay. I'm turning off
Put
my
down the
little
remote,
device here.
Dawn.
Technology.
Right here, right?
Yeah, and then the next one, please. Good.
There we go.
Okay, thank you. This is repeating a bit, it's not fully flexible month to month. The credits are monetary, not kilowatt hours at the satellite. And the load constraint must be in the same load zone, but that's probably the case. And annual reconciliation, the unused credits may be cashed out at a specified rate annually. Okay, next slide, please. I can skip this. Next, please. Okay, here are the potential savings through remote net metering. What I have in the left columns are what you actually saw earlier, the PV watts data. First in kilowatt hours per square meter per day, which doesn't mean too much, but you can see the variation seasonally, of course. And then the AC energy that can be generated, that is after the inverter, the AC energy that can be generated from this 50 kilowatt DC array. And you can see there are substantial numbers, particularly during the summer. Rather high, much higher than the actual use at that facility, and therefore you have, in that where it says positive or negative, you have a positive balance which can apply on a cost basis to the other meters that the town has. And on the right side are the potential savings total, and again, very substantially month by month, peaking in the summer, of course, and then annually something like roughly $10,000. So that's what we are looking at for a 50 kilowatt array using the energy cost in rate 281. And what's interesting, it's much less than if you had a residence. And we all pay electric bills here. You probably know that your kilowatt hour charge is 21, 22, 23 cents a kilowatt hour. Right here, you see the cost per kilowatt hour. It averages around 15 cents, much lower. That's all that we can achieve through this rate. Next slide, please. This is from the ETIP final report. It's a little hard to read in terms of the colors, but it is just left to right. So the recycling shed first, and then some things not relevant here, that is Sylvester Manor, and community housing, potential community housing. But what's noteworthy is the police station, that is high, the orange throughout the year. And the fire station is also high, Legion Hall, somewhat less, etc. Residential is a theoretical residence. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, well, why don't we conclude right now? I think that's it. This is the Caesar study that I mentioned earlier, but I don't think we need to go through that. The timeline is what's important. It would delay this installation considerably if we had to go through a Caesar study. I guess, yeah, question?
You want to just mention?
Yes, well, we started off looking at what is the potential payback period. And you saw in that earlier slide what the ETIP report talked about, 10 years or less. Unfortunately, because of this demand charge dependent rate, it's not that probably. It's going to be long. How much, we don't know. It'll be longer. But another note that was pointed out by Rob is that with a battery backup, you can level out the highs and lows and reduce the demand charge substantially. Because when the demand is high, your battery will kick in. And when it's low, then you recharge the battery. So some combination of solar and battery may prove more cost effective than just straight solar. Anything else, Tim? I guess that's the point we wanted to make.
Yep.
But so if we are to achieve the rebate, if you will, that Tim mentioned, we obviously have to proceed extremely quickly with that July 3rd or 4th date looming. And then if we miss that, December 31st, 2027 for completion of the project. And we talked about an RFP, what an RFP might look like for this. One way to approach it would be to spec out the details of the RFP in detail. Another way might be to achieve the best benefit and let the installer determine an optimal combination of battery and solar. So some thought needs to be put into such an RFP.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I ask a couple?
Of course.
I just have questions on, so the analysis was really great, especially for like the 10,000, basically like I kind of walked away, I was like, okay, $10,000 savings per year.
Right.
And then, it sounds like there's a 30% Fed credit for part of
Right.
it. So the thing that I didn't hear, and maybe I just missed it, is what is like the cost outlay? I was like, what are we?
4,000, actually $200,000 question.
Right? I was like, what are we talking about here?
We have been working with a local installer represented from a local company,
Okay,
and they have given us some just off the cuff
yeah,
ideas. And we may have mentioned it to some of you before. We're looking at 200,000, maybe 250,000 for a 50 kilowatt array.
okay.
But
Would that be just, I mean, obviously, these are probably like ballparks, those are estimates. And then just for my understanding, would that be for the array at the recycling center and at the, like, would that be for both?
No, just for the recycling shed roof.
Okay.
Not for the maintenance building, which could also be covered by solar, but no, we did not include that in these analyses.
Okay. And so the estimate, right, for like that system, is that everything that would be needed to kind of produce the results?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, that would be all inclusive. But what's interesting is that, I just showed Tim, there's a system available for commercial installation. Basically, it's sort of do-it-yourself system, probably not realistic, for ground-based 60 kilowatt array with a battery, and it's online. You can look it up, 127,000, but no installation. So it just sort of puts things in perspective.
Got it.
So without an RFP, the results, an actual proposal in hand,
Oh,
it's hard to.
oh, no, of course. I was just like wondering, I was like, where are we? Like, what are we, what's even the ballpark?
$250,000 perhaps.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
And then we would get the 30%
Right.
Credit.
paid back by the,
Right.
Right,
Feds.
exactly.
And the reason that you want to start with a 50 kilowatt system is because then we don't have to go through the Caesar, but we could always add to that in the future.
Right.
If we found that it was working efficiently and it was serving us, and we wanted to grow that system, then we could go through the Caesar and we could grow the system on top of the recycling center and then maybe add to the building department, the highway department work building, and then maybe offset all of our bills that way.
Right.
Okay.
Is there any funding available at the county? Like, what is, like, I'm just moving right into like,
Yeah,
how do you,
right,
what is
yeah,
like
excellent,
175, right? Is there any other, so like this, the 30% federal credit, is there any funding available at the county? Like, is there any
Well, one of the
dollars out
things I
there?
was wondering is if some of this downtown revitalization infrastructure money from the state could be a possibility. It depends on how it's, being allotted. But, I think we need to kind of look at all the options. A lot of solar funding kind of got cut in the last year. So, a lot of things are getting rolled back. But I think that there's a pool of grants that we can look into.
Yeah, because the new New York state ones come out soon,
Yes.
right, with the governor's budget?
Mhm.
So that might be interesting.
we have a July 4th on the 30% to actually shovel in the ground.
Yeah, that seems hard.
Well, as I said, if we miss that,
Mhm.
then it appears that the December 31st, 2027 completion date
Yeah,
is possible.
So you have two options.
Okay.
yeah, the second one probably is
Yes.
more
Right.
Realistic.
plausible.
Unless they consider the cross beams as construction, we could put the supports up that would be necessary to mount to. If that counts, then we could do that by July
Yeah.
4th.
What the letter of the.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it'd just be like, it's finding money.
Mhm.
So location, so this is going to be, when you say on the shed, this is the above the, just the building, the
The
transfer?
compactors, it's
Or
the
it's above
canopy
the,
above
okay,
the
the whole, okay,
compactors and the,
okay,
well, it'd probably be just a portion of that, 'cause I
That's a
don't,
portion of it.
yeah.
okay. And we've looked at the feasibility of the structural soundness of being able to support that.
It's-
I was gonna
Yeah,
say.
Joe looked at it.
Right.
No, Ken's in the back and I was gonna say Joe's not here yet.
Yeah, Joseph's going,
She was just asking about the structural integrity of the canopy over
But
the.
can it hold it?
We did talk about that, Joe, and yes, it is.
yeah.
Yeah.
That thing's very strong. There's a lot of steel.
I was gonna say, it's all steel I-beams, that's
A
good.
lot of steel on that roof, but the footings and everything for those piers are very deep. So
What? I have a,
So we have to find, so is it a reimbursement that the federal credit, or would they pay the vendor directly? I'm just thinking in terms of how much money we're,
That I don't know, we can find out.
and then my other question is, like, how long is like how long do the solar arrays usually last? Like, what, before they potentially, and I know you might not know the answer to that question.
No one really knows,
Right.
actually.
Right,
Well, it's a warranty.
how long is the warranty?
And, but typically the degradation year to year is something like 0.8%. So you get about 80% in 30 years
Okay,
of the output. That's typical.
okay.
But one of the things that the consultant we were working with pointed out is that the array actually, each solar panel would be operating independently.
So if one went out,
Well, you can monitor them independently, so if you had a problem with one panel, you could replace that instead of having to,
As it gets complicated.
do you want to explain it?
yeah, well,
There's three-phase at that site.
right.
And there are three-phase inverters. It's 480 volt three-phase. It's not clear that you can have three-phase on these individual panels or not. But I believe, and I'm not far from knowledgeable on this, I believe you could have 3 single-phase inverters connected to 1/3 of the panels. And that would be the equivalent of a three-phase. So,
But there was some talk about sort of,
If you can direct your voices towards the microphones,
oh, sorry,
just so that the people in the audience can, or the Zoom audience can hear.
from talking to our consultant, somebody monitor panels individually.
yes,
Yes,
there is.
yes, so that way you can judge if ones are not working properly, you can replace those.
Correct.
Okay.
I was just kind of thinking, just like it'll take like a $10,000 savings with the credit, it's 175, 17.5 years, just reversing into it, I was like, do we think that they're going to last for 17.5 years?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, I was like, because
30
we
years.
break even at 17.5 years without additional funding,
But
right?
Liz, it may not be $10,000, it may be,
It may be, no, I know, I was just like at the most conservative
yeah,
estimate, I just
Yes.
was like,
yes.
I was like, what, is they like a
Yes.
10-year situation? Is it a 30? Like, what are we talking about? I just don't know very much about solar arrays.
That's exactly what we were thinking
Yeah.
about, that very simple analysis, so
Yeah.
yes.
Plus you're offsetting the energy from other buildings at the same time.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yes. And of course, electric rates are going up.
Yeah, that is absolutely true.
And in
Cool.
truth, I mean, even if somehow we ended up not qualifying for the 30%, it would still be a positive thing to do because of the savings over time.
Yeah, the payback would not be as fast, but it would still, there would still be a payback based on how long these systems last. And also based on the possibility that rates will go up.
Yeah, it's like hedging in the future.
And then again, if you add, if you're happy with this, I should say that you add another array, then it's just gonna be even more savings down the road for the town.
And there's another possibility is to get out from this rate 281 cap. But to do so, it would seem to be difficult without a battery.
Yeah, I would just like to speak to that in our journey through this solar, in our solar journey, there have been several points at which the PSE&G regulations and rates and policies have been somewhat of an obstacle to the, to our process. I mean, we would like to do this, but only if it makes financial sense. And there have been a number of places, and the Caesar study is one of them, where a requirement from PSE&G has made, and the rate structure, this 281 rate structure, have made it possible that we have to spend more money than we ought to. If we have to set up a battery so that we can get around the rate structure, that's basically what we were talking about. Battery so that we're not, at the mercy of this rate structure, which is very, very punitive. For instance, Don was just showing me that when we have these peak rates in the summertime, that summertime activity actually affects our bill for the whole year. For the whole year, our bills are based on those very high peak rates.
It's what's called ratcheting.
Ratcheting, yes.
And,
And,
right.
I understand that there's nothing that we in this room can actually do about that. But I just think it's important for the board to understand that there are a series of these issues with PSE&G that we've run into. And it seems to me that this is an organization that's regulated by the state. And we maybe at the town board level, we should be vocal about our,
I think,
these may be unintended effects, but the effect is to discourage a move to solar.
PSG is not.
Well, they had the rates, I think the rates had to be, the rate structure was, I believe the rate structure for PSNG was recently approved by the state.
Just tossing out, like, playing devil's advocate here on downside to going forward to this, aside from trying to find $175,000. The, concerns about solar panels with respect to fires, especially since we do have fires periodically elsewhere on the property down there. And is Ken still here? Yeah.
Yeah.
Just any concerns we have about that,
I don't have any concerns about it. I don't think the panels, the fires that we've had, it's mostly the mulch pile, which we've basically been controlling it pretty well these last couple of years anyway. And we've come up with sort of Brett, one of my lead operators who deals with all the mulch up there all the time. We've come up with a way to sort of diminish that by reducing the size of those piles. And I don't see it as a concern. We've never, to my knowledge, knock on wood, we haven't had anything fire related anywhere near where, the meter and where these panels are and everything for the compactors. We haven't had an issue with the compactor, catching on fire or anything. So I don't see it as an issue.
and it looks like for us, the July 4th, starting a project July 4th is not feasible. But if we were going to shoot for December 31st, 2027 deadline, we could, how long do you think it would take for an installation project? Could we do it in the off season when it's not as busy down there?
I don't know, one thing, it would be to actually put out an RFP, very specific, as Don said, outlining the time constraint, all of that, the deadlines, and seeing if it's even possible from that standpoint. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And that would sort of give you better information, I think, just from construction and cost, all of that.
Putting out an RFP does not commit the town.
Correct.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it could be really sort of helpful information, source of information.
And there's low cost, just people cost to pull it together and some advertising costs.
Right. That just might determine other things.
I think that's a good next step, is to put out an RFP
That's what I think.
with some of our hard deadlines and see if they can meet them
Exactly.
and see what they recommend.
Definitely. I think that's worth pursuing.
Yes, I think so too.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how can, that's the question. Would we do the RFP, or how would that work?
I would say work with Joe Fenora in conjunction on that,
Uh-huh.
just because you've done all the legwork and geeked out on it.
And there are templates out there.
Mhm.
So in the past, actually, several towns have actually given me their RFP for solar. So be inventing something from scratch.
I would recommend sending those to Joe.
Mhm.
And, because he also has a template for the RFPs that he puts out,
Mhm.
and see if he can kind of marry them all.
Okay.
And then maybe sit down together and go over it and figure out what you need in it and what you want to gain from it. So, if we have specific deadlines we want to know they can meet, we want to put those in maybe with some wiggle room. And then, figure out what areas we want to leave open for their interpretation on, you know, what's the best system for us, or, you know,
Yes.
so I think your brains and Joe's brain would be great.
We'll work on.
Great, great team. Okay.
Any questions from the public?
Thank you to the committee for doing all this work.
Don and Bob did the head, but
Really, I mean, putting all the information together. Thank you.
kudos to them.
More than we ever wanted to know.
It's been 2 years in the making with the whole E-tip and everything. It's been a long road.
It's been
It
a
really
long
has
road.
been, yeah.
Yeah.
And that report will be coming to us soon too. The E-tip report on
Yes.
all of the findings, so
Mm-hmm.
things finally got released, so moving forward.
Okay,
Okay,
all right,
thank you.
so
Thank you.
work with Joe. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can we get Joe down here for the road elevation? He's what? Oh, okay, that's right. Okay, so yeah, I told him that we would flip the schedule around to suit, to accommodate him. Thank you all. All right, so we will skip over to the WQI rebate. You have, I can excuse yourself.
I am recusing myself because I'm helping the applicant with the grant process.
So Jess should have forwarded to us the application. It's Michael Wenzel at 46 North Monantic. The ask is for a $12,000 incentive plus $4,000 for possible well relocation. The lot size is 0.64 acres, so nitrogen reduction on small lots is particularly important. It's an emergency safety replacement. It is a single tank block cesspool, which was believed to have been installed back in the 1940s. So I think we could get some good nitrogen savings on this one. So anyone have any questions, or can we move this for resolution on April 27th?
Good project.
Yeah, I'd like to see this stuff here, so.
Maggie, come back.
Easy peasy. Is it time for me to?
Yes, so
Okay.
we will then move on to,
I am now going to recuse myself.
yes, for site plan
For
review.
site plan review.
We want you back for road elevation, the special meeting, and
Okay,
executive.
I'm gonna be hanging out in the town clerk's office.
Okay, works. Okay, site plan review. Then there were 3. Okay, just so we know that, we were in contact with PW Grosser, and based off on the closing of the public hearing, they have no further changes to the report, the reports that they've issued. We had a couple of them over the course of the months, and it's fine. The latest being the March 10th, 2026. Yeah. And they confirmed that, what did they, where's my notes on this? Give me just a second. They still deem this to be a type 2 action under SECRA. So going through the standards of review, we start off with traffic. And what we are looking for here, like for each of these is what types of conditions and restrictions we wish to put on this application. The thing to keep in mind is site plan review is not an approval or a denial per se. It is going through the standards of review and making sure that we put any conditions and restrictions on that we would like to see included so that their project is, meets the community's requirements.
I had some thoughts I could scribble down. One of them is, should we wait until the New York State Traffic Authority approves the design of the gate? It's going to be two-way traffic through the gate and a large opening. There is a business on the corner, Stars Cafe. Are we going to require to have crosswalks? How is it going to affect that? It's kind of a messy intersection.
Yeah, and that actually probably is like one of my biggest concerns too, is
Yeah.
just the traffic implications there and the two-way and working with the state, because, do we,
I think it's prudent to wait for that, honestly.
Trying to think who we can talk to that would know how long the process is going to take. You can't, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, I think that right now that's because it has no approvals, it's sort of a hypothetical application. So because it's going to impact the town, well, it'll impact Manwaring, if they want to put a crosswalk, it'll impact, I mean, the state is going to have to communicate with the town when and if they approve that specific design. So I don't know that we can base our site plan review on an unapproved application. I think we have to look more at the staging, traffic patterns and parking plans, because the state may never approve that specific gate design. You know what I mean? It's all hypothetical until it actually has final approval.
You don't think it's worthwhile waiting to see the impacts, the state's interpretation of the impact?
Right, no, I understand, yeah, but I think that, I mean, without knowing how long it would be, I don't know that we can reasonably hold up the review of the project, right? Isn't there like a certain number of days
Yeah.
after closing that we
60.
have to make a ruling?
Yeah, so public hearing closed on April 6th. We have 62 days from then to issue a approval or deny.
Right,
That would be June, around June 1st.
right. Like, I don't know if construction of that scale in the major roadway would trigger like another site plan review, because it would impact traffic patterns in the state road and in our town roads. Like, I'm not sure how it would impact it in the long run.
I'm a traffic expert.
No, we're not. I agree with you,
Yeah.
Albert, that it's a big change and it would
Yeah,
have
it
a
is.
significant impact on that intersection. So I'm
Yeah.
not trying to like poo-poo it or ignore it. I'm just realistically, I'm not sure if we're like allowed to base delaying closing, like our final decision on something that might take another year to 2 years for the DOT. I don't know how their schedule works.
Yeah, I was wondering if we could, I was looking back at like the various reports, and one of Joe Fenora's comments was any modifications to the entrance roadway, geometry, drainage, or traffic operations will require review and approval by the New York State Department of Transportation. As such, the conceptual nature of the current submission is insufficient to establish feasibility without coordination and concurrence from NYSDOT, including potential permitting, highway work approvals, and confirmation. So like we sometimes will put in, like approval subject to, EC approval, or, in this
Right.
instance, DOT approvals and recommendations. So Thomas, could we do something like that?
Yeah, so the condition of approval would be that the site plan is approved subject to the DOT approving the gate and layout.
Yeah, compliance with final DOT.
And
Sign off.
the ramification of any impacts as well. If
Um,
the town has to make adjustments because of what the state has dictated.
yeah, I mean, so they proposed, the applicant has proposed something in that, and I guess you could make the condition that it's subject to approval from DOT, and if the DOT comes back with a different, approve something different, then they would have to come back to the town, come back to site plan.
Okay.
I think you could do that.
Yeah, because that was, that, like, I had that as like the biggest.
Yeah, I mean.
Just an unknown.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I also started to wonder, like, do we need to make it a three-way stop sign? Or, even a four-way stop sign, that they have to have a stop sign. But that seemed like something that would take coordination inside of.
But one of the other questions I had was, did the fire department have any kind of an inspection for review of the application? Any kind of review? I didn't see anything out of that. I didn't.
Yeah, when we did the.
Again, it's two-way traffic on site and pedestrian walkways and parking.
Yeah, I think in the pre-planning, the fire department was not brought in to weigh in on any of this. It was all internal.
Should they be brought in? Probably.
Don't think we can without
Didn't-
reopening the public hearing.
I thought Reed is the fire marshal.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
There's a.
yeah, I'm looking through the list to see. We have a memo from Reed, fire marshal.
I'll probably have to end up finding it in the digital archive because too many papers.
Yeah. Maybe the planning board would have. I know someone weighed in on it. Yeah. Yeah, the planning board did say all proposed traffic access ways are adequate in number, width, grade, alignment, and visibility, are located in proper relationship with intersections, pedestrian crossings, and places of public assembly, permit emergency vehicle access, and are in conformance with and do not disturb overall traffic pattern safety considerations. So they did consider the emergency vehicle access.
But nobody from the department went, the chief or commissioners went and made a site visit.
Nothing formal was submitted to us for the town board. They may have discussed it. Did you find anything else? That was the only thing that I found in my
No, I
notes.
thought that we had made a memo or note, but not seeing it.
Well, in order to get something formally from the fire department, we'd have to reopen the public hearing.
It didn't occur to me, but I don't know, I think
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to do our due diligence here, really. I mean, this is our.
You keep looking for that. I'm gonna just make a notation on that. I feel like we should continue going through the rest of
Sure, yeah.
the standards, and then we can come back to figure out what to do.
That's,
Take a moment later and kind of dig through and see if I can find where I thought I read it. Just as an aside, Thomas, if we were to reopen the public hearing, could we reopen it just specifically for one item?
Yeah, I think you could do.
Just something to take note of.
Yeah.
Just because we've heard the public and now we're looking for something specific. Okay, did you have more, Albert? I was just gonna go through the standards, but if you've got like notes, we'll go through those first.
Whatever, take them up, whatever it is. I thought a lot about the parking situation and the near shore overlay, and I think that really should be enforced. That there's no parking, I think Liz, or I don't know where, somebody made a suggestion that we put up a split rail fence maybe, just to avoid that. I think it's something that we should,
Yeah, I think it was,
we should do.
did Teresa come up with that?
Teresa
Yeah, I think it was.
Maybe it was Teresa, whatever, I'm not sure. Yeah, Liz wasn't part of the discussion, yeah.
Yeah, I was just trying to remember like did it.
No, I think that's something that should be considered.
I think what I would like to do, and I feel like obviously we're not gonna like finish this all today. I think what I would want to do is like look at the parking and see exactly where we have things that spill into the near shore, into the wetlands area, and be specific about where fencing would be needed, rather than, doing a blanket fence that covers the whole perimeter.
Yeah.
yeah, but I was thinking the same thing, or designate specific areas where there should be no event parking or something, and have those just sort of, I don't even know that a fence is necessary if we have them very specifically delineated. Just because of the nature of the manor, it might be weird if we just kept adding fences all over. Take away from the historic nature of the area.
Okay.
But I can see how areas, here to the right of the building, you'd want to prohibit parking, because that's all wetland setback. And there's a driveway there, but maybe don't let people pull over here.
Right.
But then, other areas aren't going to be so problematic. But just,
Yes. Yeah, because I was thinking, because it does look like even where the ADA parking is, it's on the correct side of
right.
the 100
And
foot.
then it's sort of like, so after the ADA, but
Right,
then
yeah,
no
like-
parking from here to maybe the intersection or something.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking with where the ADA parking was. I was like, maybe Teresa's idea of a split rail, like you can park, but don't go beyond that.
Right.
Like, and, okay. I think we're on the same page there. But that would be a very minor, like,
Right.
fencing
It
area.
would, it would be a designated
Mhm.
space.
Okay. All right, so we've talked about traffic, interior circulation and parking, except for the concerns about the parking in the wetlands areas. I thought the interior circulation
Plan for during
was
construction
good.
makes sense, yes. I think it adequately keeps the construction trucks and the visitors separate.
Yes.
This construction's coming in from the north,
Mhm.
visitors are coming in from the south, and then they shouldn't intermingle.
And with respect to posts, I got the right one here. Okay, so we have the non-construction interior circulation, we have the proposed old farmhouse staff driveway and circulation. And then we have the proposed only construction. I was wondering whether or not, like, the proposed construction only, like, also for, you know, in the future, like vendor, you know, deliveries and things like that.
Yeah.
Use the Manhasset Road.
Delivery.
Yes. So, I don't know how anybody felt about that. I mean, I guess the only difference there is it says avoids vehicles at the manor house except for scheduled deliveries, which could take place via existing drives. I almost think that those scheduled deliveries, especially when it's, you know, summer season with, you know, kids and things, programming going on.
I think some of that depends on the condition of this road. If they're gonna make it a construction road and RCA or whatever they need to do in order to make it passable.
You're talking about a service entrance off of.
Yeah, essentially,
Yeah.
yeah. what
So
they're
looking
using
at
as the
this one,
construction road.
yeah. Just having deliveries use that access as well. Especially while it will take time to work out the DOT traffic pattern. We could always take that off once we get past DOT. We have to remember in site plan review, as we're going through the new code, to have modifications, like not a full-blown, like,
Right.
reapplication.
An
that we-
amendment process.
An amendment process, thank you, that's the word I'm looking for. So that if we later say, okay, we no longer need to keep this on here, you can amend it to take that off. Landscaping and screening.
Well, the landscaping is sort of minimal because they're taking out the roses, the heritage roses, and then they're gonna put them back, and then.
Yeah.
It doesn't really need screening because it's not immediately adjacent to another property, it's kind of,
Yeah.
keep the character of the location, so. I wouldn't necessarily push to add more plantings.
Let's go back to Teresa Mason's memo. Yeah, it's
What are
actually,
you saying, Teresa Mason?
I'm just looking at her report for,
She does call for a 3-inch rainfall collection.
mhm.
And that can just be one of the conditions on the resolution.
For the dry well capacity to accommodate 3-inch, that would be, under yeah, so under number 9, drainage.
The other question I had, was there talk of perhaps modifying a building on the site, maybe a barn into, changing it into a venue potentially, or using it in another capacity other than as a barn for agricultural use? Was there something like that? Can't remember.
Feel like there was something, let me look.
There's
But
the
I felt like it
house
was
that they were gonna use
answered.
as the office. Right, the temporary office. So they were gonna move out of the main manor house into the other house on the property to run the manor while the construction's happening. Right, and when that
Mhm.
was happening.
I feel like that was a question somewhere and then it got answered, Albert.
Yeah.
I feel like that was a question somewhere and then I thought it got answered. Because it does ring a bell, but then I took it off my list.
Okay.
I'm just,
All right.
I mean, keep looking and see if you can find it
Yeah.
in the piles of stuff.
One of the planting and vegetation requirements or landscaping requirements, I would say is just reseeding any disturbed soils
Mhm.
to help with preventing runoff and stuff, so after construction's done and they're cleaning everything up, just to reseed as close to the end of construction as possible to
Mhm.
minimize runoff.
Give me that again, or have you got that one?
I'll write that one.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
the reseeding.
Yeah.
I just was like making a note on my. Yeah, that's a usual Teresa Mason
Mhm.
one. It's easier to find stuff on the web.
I know, I'm going back and forth because too many pages. No matter how well I have them organized, doesn't seem to matter.
Let me throw the big one that I had on the table.
Okay.
Irregardless of Grocer's opinion,
Mhm.
would it be prudent of the town board to, as determinant, consider this a type 1 and do a thorough? It's 236 acres. There's a lot going on here. Is that the good thing to do, the right thing to do?
Look to Thomas to weigh in.
I'll say no.
Just-
Yeah, I mean, it has to fit a criteria. If it's gonna be a type 1 action versus, it has to fit a criteria.
Right.
Like, there's listed criteria in DEC regulations, so if you see one that is applicable, then, that's what the board's supposed to do, but it has to fit one. Otherwise, it's either type 1, type 2, or unlisted. you know, PW Grocer's opinion, looking at it, I think I spoke to them as well, was that it was a type 2 action based on the criteria. But I would suggest if you want to look at the type 1 criteria and see if, you know, this action fits, then that's, you know, something you can do.
If you could get us those criteria, just
Right.
after the meeting, we can individually look at that.
I don't think it hurts to do it.
So we'll send us the type 1, secret type 1. Existing development comprehensive plan and prior stipulations. The development proposed is at a scale and density consisting with the existing development with the comprehensive plan of Town of Shelter Island with all prior zoning variances, wetland permits, special permits, and stipulations. We already had it, it already went through ZBA.
Right.
Natural features and environmental concerns. We had CAC, PW Grocer, and Teresa Mason, and Planning Board all looking at natural features and environmental concerns. I believe CAC.
Planning board just said that they agreed with Ms. Mason's assessment in their report.
CAC. Where I had their report open, just found it on. Oh, here it is online. It's easier. Like, I looked at it once today.
It just says that all proposed renovations will be required to meet the current code for landscape, natural features, and lighting. Their recommendation.
Board. Right, you've covered that. Double checking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were very, very short and sweet on that one.
Yeah. Okay.
Her bigger concern, I think, was stormwater control during the construction process with the use of silt fencing and increase for the dry wells to a 3-inch rainfall capacity.
Okay, yeah, I put that note down in drainage.
Yeah, she just had that under the natural features section of her report. Revegetating disturbed areas. It's-
All right, yes, I think we would just want to, bless you. I put a note in here that we'd want to just make sure we have the silt fencing, and if there's any grade modifications that are needed, that a plan for that is approved by the building department before they make any grade modifications. I don't think there were any proposed.
No, the only real disturbance on that side will be the abandonment of the existing sanitary system, which is actually not overly invasive. And then the installation of the new sanitary system, which is outside of the wetlands boundary, and that also, as soon as that's in, they typically regrade and seed, so. And that will be within the silt fence boundary, so that should be fine. Like abandonment always happens, it takes like half a day to do an abandonment, so it's like open and closed all in the same day.
Next is cultural features. Due regard shall be paid to all cultural features on and adjacent to the site, including but not limited to archaeological, paleontological remains, old trails, historic building sites, and agricultural fields. I think.
Yeah, their note is that, but the planning board's note, I should say, is that these areas of archaeological importance and the burial grounds and stuff should be clearly depicted on the site plan to avoid disturbance. And they are.
Yes,
When I specifically looked for them and they're all outlined on the site plan.
Yeah. So I don't think there's anything we need to add there.
It's also in the manor's best interest to protect those areas, so.
As far as pavement goes, all plazas and other paved areas intended for use by pedestrians shall use such pavement and plant materials so as to encourage their use by pedestrians during all seasons of the year and prevent the creation of vast expanses of pavement.
So we're not paving any of the areas, right? They're doing permeable pavers for the ADA areas, so that it doesn't get muddy and it's easy for ADA access. But other than that, I think they're sticking with the dirt pathways and driveways.
Lighting, I think we just would want to code compliant lighting, although there's not a lot of neighbors directly adjacent.
There also isn't really a lot of lighting proposed. There's.
Right, and it's, yeah, there's not a lot of.
Who reviewed lighting, the CAC and the building department?
Planning board, building department, Teresa Mason. Yeah. And drainage, I had written down incorporate the drywall capacity to accommodate a 3-inch rainfall. We've gotten the updated so that the septic was moved out of there. Yep. Joe didn't have anything on drainage. Okay. Public utilities, or no public utilities.
Yeah, that one doesn't really apply.
Yeah. Public address or sound systems.
So those would just be for the specific events.
Yeah.
Um,
But yeah, there's nothing permanent being proposed.
right.
We've already talked about the handicapped access ADA compliance. I mean, other than I think the location was fine. Energy conservation. I mean, that's everything that's already in the New York State Building Code, so.
Right. They're not expanding
Mhm.
for size.
Yeah. The size of the subject parcel and the extent of proposed development and disturbance of the applicant's premise. They got size on their sides.
Well, and with energy conservation, the building will be more efficient when it's
Mhm.
complete.
Yeah. And the only other thing I can see in my notes is events that are close to the wetlands, remove flooring and tents within 48 hours of events.
What was that, Amber? Sorry.
For events, with, if there's proximity to the wetlands, remove flooring and tents within 48 hours of event.
Okay, all right, yeah.
We've put that condition on their permits in the past.
Mm-hmm.
For
Yeah. They're a big event.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But now to be in for those that they don't have to apply to us. All right, so this is what I've got. So
Yeah.
fill me in if I'm missing anything. So under traffic, we will build in something that it has to be in conjunction with approvals from the Department of Transportation. So Thomas will come up with the wording for that. We have the open question about if we want to reopen the public hearing for the fire department to get their input.
Because I just, speaking of that, this is from a letter from, Sylvester Manor. We are seeking Chiltern Island Fire Department input regarding exterior connections and a possible underground cistern, which could also serve other structures. Design requires coordination with the Chiltern Island Fire Department and our engineering, archaeology, and landscape consultants. Please review and approval as a provisional requirement for this project, certificate of occupancy.
What date is that?
March 3rd, 26. It's probably a good thing to do, to have,
So we could put
consider, to look at.
right. Sure. Put it in as a, similar to what we're doing with the DOT.
Yeah. Well, part of the fire department inspection or review, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that I was thinking is that the construction road that they're putting in off of, whatever. the road-
Manhattan.
Thank you. Yeah, that construction road would also work as a fire apparatus road. If they can get big construction vehicles and delivery vehicles in, they should be able to get a fire truck in that road. Probably easier than the front gates, I would think.
Yes.
Okay, so the DOT, the fire department, those are, we'll put those in as conditional. Parking, we'll look at putting up split rail fencing, per Teresa's suggestion, specifically delineating, where where the fencing might be, as well as areas where parking can or cannot be. Circulation using the number 3 construction plan, circulation plan for normal deliveries. Reseeding after construction. For any grade modifications, silt fencing, and if there are modifications, approval by building department first. Code compliant lighting. Drainage incorporating dry well capacity to accommodate 3-inch rainfall. Removing flooring and tents within 48 hours. Secra, Thomas will send us the type 1 criteria, review that to see if we find anything that has to fit in there. And Albert's going to look for or I have looked too, the open question about a building use change.
Yeah,
I feel like
I have to go.
yes, it rings a slight bell, but then I feel like
Notes I don't have with me, but.
I feel like it was taken off the
Oh,
table.
right, okay, I remember what the fire part was. So,
Oh, you
Teresa,
found it.
well, it's in the same one that Albert read from, the seeking Shelter Island Fire Department. But the response was to Teresa Mason's inquiry about whether or not they would need an additional well for the fire suppression system. But then they explained that the system that they're using is a mist system, and so it actually doesn't use as much water. So it's because it's a historic building, there's a specific type of system they need to use. So,
Shouldn't there be cisterns there, actually, for fire? God forbid there's a fire. There's no water access. Well, I guess you get it from the creek.
yeah, they're right,
On the creek,
right up
but-
on the creek. Yeah, I mean, I think there could be a cistern, but they also do have unlimited water from the creek, which is, according to the survey, less than 100 feet from the house, right?
Mhm.
Let's see.
$130 feet. Yeah, I'm reading through that whole response on the fire, because it does go on in some detail.
Yeah, it's a pretty comprehensive description of what the system does. And
Yeah, the Fike DuraQuench system. Draws water from the tank at 111 gallons per minute, pressurized to 150 PSI. Factors considered in the design were relevant fire codes, cubic volumes of the spaces being protected, hazard classification for those spaces, placement of sprinkler heads to achieve the desired outputs, routing of pipes through the walls from the basement to the attic to deliver the appropriate amounts of pressurized water.
so there's a 2,475 gallon tank in the basement specifically for the system. It looks like it's designed to be water efficient and yet effective at putting out the fires.
But we could still put something in Albert for the exterior. And have the fire department take a look at, because they will bring their tanker, some.
Other areas on the property that cisterns could be put in place to have water access that are far away from the water on the other side of the property. I mean, it is a large parcel. I don't know. Minor request would be that we have surveys of the easements that they have on the property, just a survey. Know that they're delineated in one thing that I saw from the county, but if we have survey.
This big survey lays out most of the easements.
Yeah, I think it was just missing the most recent Suffolk County
Yeah,
home purchase. I think we
actually,
put that on there. Oh, yeah, that is there. Maybe that's just their property. So I think this was part of the easement too, right? It was this flag lot, was the newest. We can double check that. Yeah. But yeah, we can incorporate that into the final.
right. Yeah, because this is still labeled property of Sylvester Manor, but it hasn't, the condo partners.
Yeah, it's just, it's an easement, it's not a sale.
Right. So it's just an easement.
Yeah. So it is in gray, some
But
of these others.
Right. Okay. But then I wasn't sure if this was part of that.
I thought it was a very small parcel.
Okay.
Have I covered everything?
I think so.
Okay. I'll work with Thomas to get these written up into a draft that we can review.
Sounds good.
Anything else, Albert?
No, I was just looking at PW goes for a secret classification, but we can take that up with Thomas's.
Yeah.
But,
Put this back on for next week, just to review if we can get it. Do we know if Joe is available?
Well,
Yes, and we need to get Liz back. Just give us a second for Liz to return.
I do it.
Joe, how are you?
Okay. So next up. You got pictures?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right, good. All right, so, Joe, if you want to just, for the public, just
Yes.
refresh on what the road elevation study was.
Yes. One item identified in our previous hazard mitigation plan was to seek solutions for neighborhoods that were challenged by elevation, flooding, for both regular access, their own to residents, and for emergency access. The hazard mitigation plan identified 2 areas. Those are specifically the low-lying portion of West Neck Road as it approaches the Westmoreland neighborhood, and the other is the Ram Island causeways, the first and the second causeway. And those are 2 locations that have historically been overtopped by flooding events or even just severe weather events, and access is restricted for the residents, but also we have had many instances where emergency vehicles are not able to get to those areas, specifically Ram Island, where emergency crews have been pre-positioned. So if we know that there's going to be an access issue because of overtopping of the road, crews would spend the event on high ground on that side, the opposite side of the flooded area, so that they could respond to an emergency. To address these problems that were identified in the hazard mitigation plan, the town funded a study and analysis of where specifically those areas, those challenged areas were, the lowest lying areas. And internally, we studied these to understand the exposure, the frequency, and the extent to which access is restricted. So in plain talk, we paid a surveyor to go for about 1.5 miles of road and measure the site-specific elevations at both the road shoulders, the road crown, and the edges of pavement. And then we produced a long series of maps that showed along that route where all of those elevations were. Internally, I take all of those elevations, I compare them to FEMA's flood maps, and I understand where the lowest level point is relative to what projected flood elevations are. To take that one step further, the goal of the project was to say, now that we know these things, we know the elevations, we know the extents of where the low-lying areas are, what good is that to the town? What is the news that you can use? And so the ultimate goal of this project is to analyze those areas so that we understand precisely how much water, under what flood circumstances we're dealing with. Is it 6 inches of water? Is it 2 feet of water? And what do we want to do about it? Do we want to raise the road so that this isn't a problem? Do we want to invest in high water emergency access vehicles so that we can perhaps leave the road the way it is, but know that we can get to these neighborhoods if we need to? And so I've taken all this data and I've created what I believe to be the town's first AI model, where the model has read and understands the elevations of the road. And then we input a projected storm event. So Suffolk County Emergency Management provides us in advance a projection of a local weather event. A hurricane is coming, a nor'easter, and they say, they have the forecasting and meteorological tools to say, this event is coming, you're expected to see winds of this amount through this time period, water in excess of 2 to 3 feet above normal elevations. And this model will take that data that we get, this alert, it will compare it to our known elevations, and it will project to us an announcement that the town can share both internally and externally of when overtopping events may occur, the time window, from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. on Tuesday, you may have restricted access. It also tells us within that time window how much water we would expect to see. So we can plan if we need to have a pre-positioned crew or not. It would say you're projected to have maybe 2 or 3 feet above the road, and that's something that we would say we can't transit. So we would pre-position an emergency team in response. But the ultimate goal is to have this model take the alert that we get, that's an event-specific alert, and spit out for us how we should react. Do we pre-position crews? Do we notify the residents? Is there no concern? Is there catastrophic concern? And we're working on the exact wording of those messages, but the idea is that this is something that gets automated. So when the alert comes in, it goes through the model, and then we can choose how we want to disseminate the information. It can be something that goes out automatically through the town's communication tools. It can be something that we post on our website. It can be something that we just use internally, but that would be up for the board to decide. So what you see on the screen here is just some of the very boring elevation surveys that were done. Christina, you click through the first couple of pages. So they're hard to look at, particularly on a big screen like this, because it's a long road, and so on any given sheet you just see one section, and then if you wanted to make this all together, it would take up an area the size of this room with all the paper printed. But this is the product that we got from the surveyor. Then we're stopped there, Christina. This is the type of alert that we get from Suffolk County. It's their OEM advisory. This is number 25. It's just an example one from Tropical Storm Henry. I think this was at least several years ago. But I've been taking these different historical alerts that we get, and I'm running them through the model so that we get better, we start to refine the outputs, and we can work on the messaging. But if you scroll down a little bit, Christina, you'll see the type of data that we get. It's all paragraph form. It tells us the location of the storm, the expected storm surge. You can see there potential 2 to 4 foot storm surge, localized 5 feet possible. And then if you continue down, Christina, to the next page, this is a sample of the model output. This would be our product that is a result of the data and the storm data and the elevations. And this is what's very much in beta phase, deciding how much information we want to share, who is this message geared towards? Is it for our own EMS staff? Is it for residents? And sort of the sky is the limit on how we want to approach this. This is where we can use creative license to evolve and adapt as our needs change. We can choose to make this more mechanical and just for our own planning, or we can make sure that we're getting outputs that are appropriate for the public, that are really simplified and easy to consume. But for a sense of example, this is one way that it would come out. So it talks about the overtopping predictions. That's when the water breaks the crown of the road. It talks, I have it spit out vehicle access windows, which I, at least at first glance, thought was a very relevant piece of information, like when can I not drive there? And it breaks out, when your passenger car can go, when we would have trouble with larger emergency vehicles, and then, when a high water vehicle might be able to transit or not transit. So I don't want to say this project is concluded because it's kind of far from that, but the analysis work, the data collection work, that's all done. And here's one of the outputs also. So yeah, my goal is to create written text format recommendations or alerts and complement it with an image, a heat map, so to speak. But there's so many ways to go about this. Sometimes I look at this and I thought, maybe the image is maybe it's too much. I don't want people to look at the wrong thing, or maybe the image is like a one-time output, but you don't need to recreate that every time. Anyway, that's really.
This one's handy. When it gives you an idea of how high over.
Oh, yeah.
Elevation.
Yeah. So, what do you think?
I like it.
I like it. Very cool. I think it'd be really helpful. This is awesome.
Did you run some of our more recent storm events through it? And see if like your results matched up with the photos taken from PD and stuff?
I'm only running the ones that we got from the county for consistency. And they're getting more accurate. The more we do, the more we're finding that, you know, what it said would happen, happened.
Yeah,
So that's great.
that's good.
Yeah.
I think it's a great tool.
And with weather forecasting, it's like, I could be wrong all the time. That's the. I can't lose, you know?
Show the weatherman.
Yeah, right.
I think as long as we put a disclaimer on the notifications that, you know, here's our concerns, but
I think it could be really helpful,
Mhm.
especially
I think
like,
so.
you know, if it's just like, it's not, you know, threatening to overtop, then like you don't have to station crew, you know what I mean? Like you don't have to station crews or vice
Right.
versa, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're trying, my goal is to get it to take out the guesswork, you know, for the big one.
Mhm.
This is not helpful because everybody knows it's gonna be bad.
Right.
You know, it's really for the little ones where we're trying to say is that, you know, it's just we think worth, you know, the manpower and the risk exposure to send the crew to, you know, put them in harm's way or, you know, things like that.
For a weird nor'easter on a full moon, it's
Right.
like.
Yeah.
It's specifically looking at local.
At a high
tides.
tide.
Yeah, exactly, tides and winds, and it's taking that county data that predicts the severity and the timing, and it's overlaying it with our local conditions, so our you know, wind direction, wave direction, tide cycles, rain, and it's trying to, you know, mesh the two.
so how close are you to being able to start implementing it?
We're ready to do that. I think it'd be helpful feedback to understand what you want the output to be.
Mhm.
If you have any feedback, otherwise, you know, we can beta test, you know, what I have
I
already.
like the memo.
But if there are specific things that you want to say or not want to say, you know, that's really, I think, the purpose of this discussion.
Yeah, I think, you know, get us, you know, that, I liked the format of the memo. It looked like it was a one pager, easy enough to digest.
Yeah.
So we could all read that and see. Who would be the one to, like, I know initially as you're trying to get this out, you'd be very heavily involved, but then ultimately who's going to be tasked with this?
That, you know, it kind of makes sense for this to live with emergency management coordinators.
Mhm.
But it's an easy thing where, you know, nobody with any special skills needs to operate this. So I think that's part of the plan also, is to make it so that anybody could use this, you know, internally, that we identify. I don't know if it's emergency, you know, Chief Reed or Ken Lewis or myself, you know, anybody in that role, I think would be appropriate for this, the supervisor.
Excellent.
No. No, I'd rather have somebody in emergency.
It is totally dependent on the county's data.
Right.
Mhm.
And the more, you know, so I did that specifically for consistency, because they give us the same information every time. But if it's an event that they don't give us that, then, you know, probably not so accurate, yeah.
Okay.
And then do you foresee like doing some tracking, like, okay, you know, this is the actual event and this is what ended up happening with road
Yes.
elevations and passability of the
Yes.
vehicles?
My suggestion would be we do at least another handful of events before we send it out to the public, but, you know,
Mhm.
if it's worthwhile, we can test it. We can also test it, we can also set it to be more conservative. So if perhaps in our initial outputs, we're making sure that we're not skimping on the recommendation
Mhm.
until we've had a chance to be more comfortable with the output.
That all makes sense. I think it's a great tool.
Yeah, it's terrific, Joe.
Thanks
Thanks.
for putting that together.
Yeah,
I'd like to proceed.
okay.
Let's do it.
All right,
I
so
like preparedness.
Right?
Yes.
So if you have any suggestions on the output, that's really, you know, would be helpful to me. If you like it the way it is, that's
I
great.
think the output looks great. I mean, I think it's just like clear, concise, like this is, you know, this is when this kind of vehicle can pass, like this is when we're worried about this, like, I think simple especially when there's a lot of stuff going on in the community, is great. So I have no notes.
Okay,
No
so then
notes.
we'll run it a couple more times and then maybe by the fall, hurricane season, we're ready to release.
That'd be great. Yeah. And I think it's helpful to have, like, instead of just being like, we think that you should evacuate, we could be like, we think you should evacuate because a vehicle will not be able to get to you for 12 hours.
Yeah.
Right? And it just gives a little more credence to those kind of requests when we're trying to, keep the public sometimes from themselves. So it's good information to have.
Yes,
Thanks, Joe.
all right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, sure.
All right. Town board liaison reports.
Start.
Okay.
So we had community housing board. Just a little update. We've got 4 done, or sorry, ADUs. We have 4 done. We have 2 under construction. We have 2 in design, like about to start. We have 7 applications in that are like for the next part. And then we have 1, we just have 1 opening in the first round. So that's cool. Talking about the 10-unit rental project. We do have, I did reach out and I talked to Gwen a little bit, and she thinks we might have some preliminary financial modeling towards the end of this month.
Oh, cool.
So I'll keep everybody posted on that. But our fund's at 1.6 million, so that's neat. The housing needs assessment, so we did sign on for that. And I talked to Bran, and he's going to arrange for the consultants to come to do the kickoff at the May meeting.
Okay, great.
Because we have like 6 meetings that were like on, like, that we could have as part of like the proposal, whatever, contract. And so she basically was going to have some data that was going to become available. So just thought it would make more sense. So, and then basically kind of talking about putting it together and how to get the word out. They thought that they actually could probably put together, like, the housing needs assessment is going to be, I mean, it's going to take some tweaking. They're going to take some of the work that we did from when we first did the housing plan. Obviously the housing board's going to go back and forth on it. They think that because we were kind of talking about, okay, hey, when are we going to roll it out? Making sure that we have it in time for the summer. She did think that they were going to need a couple of weeks to translate it into Spanish. So that would be one thing, but we should be ready to go for the summer. So they're already talking about how to get the word out. And then also, just so this group knows, there is a subgroup of us that is starting to work on the contracts framework. And we're meeting like every week, every other week. So that's been great. That's probably like the big one. And then we had CPF yesterday. We did get a draft of the acquisition plan, which is great because it really out of date. I think that, like, Amber, I don't know if I speak for you too. I think I do have a concern that there are not properties listed on it. And I was like,
in the legislation, you had to list properties.
yeah, so I sent something back, and I know, Amber, you asked too, just like, can you run this by your council? Because, like, I don't think this is gonna work. I did actually go through, and I do have a bunch of notes and some suggestions for it. And then just in like the stewardship things, the other thing that was interesting, at Sachem's Woods, they're looking at putting up, like, potentially looking for parking and doing some signage so that people can enjoy that trail. And at Artist Lane, like, there's the 2 town properties, and they're thinking about doing a floating bridge. So you could you wouldn't have to go into private land to get from one to the other. And so those were the things I thought was, yeah, I know. I was like, seems great. But those are the things, that's what I had from last meeting. I don't know if you had any other.
No, just the Peconic Bay Regional Advisory Committee.
Yeah.
Thursday. Like, what day is it?
What is time?
Thursday, we have another subcommittee meeting of the Peconic Bay Regional Advisory Committee to go over the rules and regulations for the operations of the committee. So we're hoping that we will get that finalized on Thursday, can bring it back to the next full meeting, and then be able to get up and running to start posing questions. And the committee will continue to work on what are changes that are needed for the underlying, legislation, because we think that there's some things in there that we don't know whether or not the state will pick up and start to tweak, but at least if we know what questions and concerns we have, then as we go through, the committee goes through how to answer the questions, at least we know what the hot buttons are, or the things that we're struggling with interpreting the legislation. So, I think that's it. Yeah, so that was CPF. That was yours. Who? We've got openings for Community Preservation Fund Advisory Board. We're looking for a new member. Green Options, looking for a new member. Justice Court, part-time clerk, we're looking for somebody there. Did I say WQ Advisory Board?
No, WQI.
Yes, I was going to say.
WQI,
Yes, exactly. I'm like, I know I'm missing one. Yeah. WQI met. We did the one rebate application. Just always like to keep putting out there that Suffolk County increased their grants. What is it, 10 to 15? I know you have those numbers.
Yeah,
And then the state from
Yeah, both,
10 to 25,000.
yeah,
Do I have those numbers right?
county and the state both increased their grants. So the county went from 15,000 to 20,000, and the state went from 10,000 to 25,000. So I think at the last meeting I explained, if you've already been approved for a grant, but you have not installed your system yet, wait, because the county's gonna reach out to amend your grant to the new grant values, so you'll get more money. And if you haven't had your grant approved yet, when it is approved, it'll be approved for the new grant value, so it'll be more than you were originally applying for. And of course, it's only to cover the cost of your system, so if your grant is more than the cost of your system, you're not gonna get a check for that extra money, it's just gonna pay for your system. That's how that works.
Yeah. And I know WQI, they are going to pull together a list of questions that we maybe, I don't know if we'll be the first, but we've got questions for the Peconic Bay Regional Advisory Committee. So they're going to pull together little talking points so that we can take those as soon as the committee is ready to accept. Robert, did you want to cover WMAC last night?
Do I have to?
One of us should. If you want me to, I'll start. We'll be seeing the Hubbard mooring application come to us, as well as the Overbrook real property, which is Altschul Miller, which we've already set the public hearing for. And then the major topic of the evening was the Pike revised dock application. And the committee will be giving us a report. It ended up being 3-3. There was one member who was not missing on approving or denying. So they will give us a report that gives both, the arguments for those who were in favor of approving it. Those that were in favor, I think for the most part, it's code compliant, and they thought that the longer dock application of 100 feet was better for the area than that section of the body of water versus the 85. And then those who are opposed to it will give us all of the various reasons that they think that the dock is inappropriate in that section. So we should be getting that before we pick up the public hearing again on 27th. That's all the notes I have on that. I think that was everything. Is that happened this past week?
We've been like,
That was all.
yeah, I feel like we've been doing our updates every week, so I have like last,
Yes.
yeah.
I have,
Oh, yes, you have.
yeah, I have one. So this week, we're going to be launching a future healthcare survey, like a needs assessment of healthcare needs on Shelter Island. So the survey that's going out is essentially to gain information from the public on what their healthcare needs are, what needs are being met, how they're being met, and what needs are not being met, and what kind of services they're looking for. So the survey should take about 2 to 5 minutes. It'll be open to everybody. We're going to have it on the town website. It's going to be posted on social media for people to fill out if they want to do it digitally. If you want to do a hard copy, there are hard copies available at Town Hall. They'll be at the Senior Center, the library, the Fit Center. Will all have places where you can fill them out and then just return them. There'll be either a box or a big envelope that you just put your filled out survey in. All the surveys are anonymous, so even if you fill it out online, it doesn't collect any of your information unless you choose to give it to us at the bottom of the survey so that we can send you updates. So that's a choice that you can make. And the survey is going to ask questions on things like pharmacy access, mental health services, home health visits or home doctor's visits, and more, just to see what kind of needs people are finding they have. And so we're hoping that with that information, we can then target our efforts more effectively to actually meeting some of the needs of the public, because we started looking at this when the pharmacy left the island. And so we're like, well, that is a need that people express, all the time. Like, we need a pharmacy. It's a cornerstone of, sort of people feeling like they have a healthcare system on the island. That's a huge lift. So the more we look into it, the harder and harder that is to do. But while we're looking at that, we're also coming across all these other things that, concerns that come up around not having a pharmacy, right? So I've had some seniors come up to me and they're concerned about how they're going to safely age in place. They're thinking, do I have to sell my house and then move closer to my children? Or, how am I going to be able to get to my doctor's visits when I'm older? Things like that. And there are concerns that the senior center has brought to our attention too, about not getting home health aides to the island more regularly, or not being able to be discharged from the hospital soon enough because you can't get the post-hospital care that you need on the island because no one's going to come here to provide it. So we're trying to figure out where the gaps are and how we can fill them. There's some grant funding that will be opening up later in the year. So I want to make sure that if there's a need that we can get grant funding for, we're ready to apply for it. And this survey will help give us some of that background support to apply for grants for things that the community is saying, this is what we need, this is what we're lacking. So I want to encourage everybody to take the 2 to 5 minutes to take the survey. It's not very complicated or very long. A lot of them are yes, no, maybe questions, or it's like, where do you typically go for your healthcare? And it's, Riverhead, Southampton, East Hampton, Southold, basic questions. And then there is a section at the end where you can leave comments, suggestions, ideas, maybe things that we're missing, and give us feedback. So we'll have it posted on the website, but there will be an ad in the Reporter this week with the QR code, so you can do it from there. There'll also be a letter to the editor explaining why we're doing it and what we're looking to get out of it. And so I would just encourage everybody to fill it out and get back to us with your information. I think we're at sort of a critical point in our community as to how we're going to address this. And it's an issue all across the East End. And so we've been talking to someone who's trying to solve the problem on the South Fork. So I think that if we can partner, we might be able to bring services from the South Fork to the island and, kind of broaden the amount of services available to people. So that's what we're trying to do. And so the information from this survey will really help us to guide our efforts in an effective and productive way. So that's why I'm encouraging everybody to please take the survey.
It looks like it's live now.
Yes.
I
Yes,
just grabbed the QR code.
it is.
I'm filling it out. Okay.
Good point, Meg. Good
Yeah.
point.
So this should all be up on the website this afternoon. The hard copies I'm going to deliver after this meeting to the library, the Fit Center, the Senior Center, and here in Town Hall at the desk in the hallway. There'll be ones you can take. You can fill them out right there and just put them in the box. And then I'm going to try to keep this open for 2, maybe 3 weeks, depending on how much feedback we get. But yeah, so
Good.
please, I encourage everybody and share it with your friends. I'm also going to email all the HOAs a link so that they could send it out to their constituents and people can just go into the email and fill it out. I want to make it as easy as possible and hit as many people as possible. So that's what I've been doing.
Cool.
Yeah.
If there's nothing else, then we will adjourn the work session and go into a special meeting. We just have the one resolution. I'll read it. Whereas Linda Springer, on behalf of the 250th Anniversary Parade Committee and the Town of Shelter Island, have submitted an outdoor assembly application for permission to conduct a July 4th parade in celebration of the 250th anniversary of the founding of the United States of America, and whereas said parade is scheduled to take place on July 4th, 2026, from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m., with a parade start time of 10 a.m. along the same route customarily utilized for the town's Memorial Day parade on town roads, and whereas the event will include floats and marching groups, and whereas the applicant has requested an exemption from the noise ordinance, and whereas the applicant has requested the town services of Highway Department, Police Department, Fire Department, and EMS, and whereas the required documents have been submitted, now therefore be it resolved that said application is hereby approved, and be it further resolved that the requested exemption from the noise ordinance is hereby granted for the duration of the event. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Yay.
We'll make a motion to close the special meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And now we will make a motion to go into executive session to talk about the contract. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.